So, Shabbat Shalom, friends. I'm wondering if any of you have had an experience similar to me, in that you were striving and striving and striving and fighting and fighting and fighting for something, and you had convinced yourself that if you stopped fighting, it would mean that you had given up. And then something happened. Some sort of peace descended on you that allowed you to let go and surrender. And I'm wondering if you also had an experience similar to mine, in that the judgments you were holding about yourself to succeed and not to give up sort of gave way before a feeling of surrender and support. And you felt, instead of fighting an upstream battle, you were sort of allowing the current to take you where the current was going. I've heard that when people are drowning, that there's a disorientation that happens where the person is not aware of what is up and what is down. So they're struggling and swimming in a direction, but they're no longer clear if they're striving towards the surface to get a breath, or whether they're miring themselves down even deeper into the deep. And I've heard survivors of near drowning experiences say that they heard a voice, or they felt an urge, or they realized that they just had to let go. And in that moment, they were able to feel themselves rising to the surface, reorient themselves, and then kick and push to get up to the surface to save their lives. I've heard that there's also a similar thing that might happen to pilots when they're flying and something happens to make them go off course and their radar isn't clear. And I've heard other stories of pilots also having to not follow the rules necessarily, but just follow their training and sort of intuit their way and let go and surrender, and then the plane rights itself. I think that this miracle, for lack of a better word, is something that many of us have maybe experienced or hope to experience. And I'm hoping that if you feel comfortable, you might want to share an experience that you had, that you were fighting, but you surrendered, and then you were able to go more with the flow and save yourself. And I'd like to share those as inspiration. David's raising his hand. Thank you, Brian.
Well, first I want to say, we were talking about drowning. I drowned. I can't say the second part because I drowned.
Oh.
Oh, I drowned, yeah. I drowned. I swear I went to where God is. It was great. I was angry when I came back. But anyway.
Talk into the mic, please.
Oh, wow.
That was very poignant, and please talk into the mic.
Yes, it is. Okay, and why is it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is a small area.
Now you sing.
Okay, so I know this is gonna be kind of hard for me to share, but that exactly had to do with my marriage.
Mm.
I fought for years. Fought, because I said I do under God, and it's just, that was my feeling, just I have to fight, even though I was suffering, she was suffering, everyone was telling me, faith leaders, my parents, her, just everybody's saying, you guys aren't gonna thrive until you separate, at least try to. And finally, honestly, my dad getting sick is kind of what forced it a little bit more, because I had to focus on him, but finally when we separated, and I let go, I'm like, all right, whatever, I tried, I did my best, and I just let go. And yes, a lot of weight lifted off my shoulders, and my life and her life separately has become much better.
Thank you, David. Thank you. Is there someone else who might want to share? A letting go story. A surrendering as opposed to giving up story. You've never given up, Julie? You're still fighting,
Always.
tooth and nail.
Always, every day.
Mhm. It's exhausting.
Apathy is not an option.
Mm. I would say though that apathy and surrender are different. I mean, I'd like to draw a distinction between apathy and surrender. Apathy is perhaps giving up. Apathy is not caring anymore. But surrender is trusting to something that's higher to us, whether it's sort of the order of the universe, whether it's God, whether it's something we can't explain. There's often when we lean back, we actually do get caught and supported. So I'm just gonna wait you guys out because I can stand here all night. Thank you, Susan.
Well, I don't really need this, but I'll use it.
They can't hear you at home otherwise.
Okay.
That's what it's for.
All right.
Yeah.
So I don't have a particular incident, but what I do know is that you, whether it's a project or something, and you just can't get to where you want to be, and you step away
Mm.
and you take a couple of days off or a couple of hours off or whatever it might be, then you can come back and you can focus again. So it doesn't really have to be a relationship or some particular incident, because I get very overwhelmed with my cruise ships and my tour guides and whatever, and sometimes you just have to get up, go out for a walk, come back, and then, okay, maybe we can face this again. So it's a little bit of surrendering, but you just need to focus
Yeah.
and take a deep breath.
Or not focus,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah.
yeah, so sort of if you're focusing and you're pushing, it's sort of, that sounds to me, Susan, like you're surrendering to the natural flow of your body, right? Or the natural flow of reality, right? Because you can push, but eventually we exhaust, right? We exhaust ourselves. So even if you don't consider it a surrendering, I would see that as sort of a surrender to your health, right? A surrender to the knowledge that whatever you're striving for will eventually percolate to the top, right? A lot of creative people talk about that. Yeah.
Because I know for me, if I just keep going, then I start making mistakes too,
Sure.
because I'm getting frustrated and I'm tired and whatever. So I know I have to go away and then come back. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like that.
Thank you, Susan. Maybe one more person about surrendering or letting go or leaning back and getting caught. I saw people nodding, so I know you're out there.
Maybe a Zoom person?
I think my mom's the only one on. Is anyone other than hi Mom? Have you ever surrendered?
Your daughter.
Well, I used to call it lowering my expectations for all the things that I want to do. But I like the idea of calling it surrendering because I've often found much more peace after I've listed what it is that's the most important to me and go forward with that and dropping activities or volunteer work or other types of responsibilities when I was teaching and surrendering. Good way to put it.
Thank you, Mom. Actually, I remember something. That my mother told me. So when I was getting all overwhelmed because I was a really intense kid that turned into a really intense adult, but she would talk about, my mom would talk about, do you remember this, Mom? She would talk about the spinning plates, right, in the circus, or, right, you would go, and people, at Sullivan Show, sure, and people would spin the plates, and the whole point was to keep them all spinning, but my mom would say, sometimes you've used up a plate, right, that you don't need to keep that plate spinning anymore. There are things that you can let go of, and then you can put up a new plate, right? And I would say, that is surrendering. You can surrender the plate. You can say, and then you can just let it go. Eve, did you have something you were going to share?
Well, I was just thinking in
Oh wait,
general-
we got to give you the mic because they really can't hear you at home. And they get so frustrated and they complain to me all week long. So, thank you.
I don't know if it's
Never mind.
important enough, but anyway. No, I was just thinking in general that that's just the basic definition of spirituality, that you surrender.
Mhm.
But not everybody looks at it like that, but that is a basic. The only thing I think like every day I surrender, we don't know what's gonna happen really,
Yeah.
any day, but the thing that came up is when I went to Brazil to do research, and the laptops had just come in as an invention in 1990, and I brought this laptop with me, and I didn't know they had a computer war between the U.S. and Brazil. So at the place there, when you come into the country, they said, "Oh, can you leave the laptop with us for just a little while, and then you go to this office and come back." And I said, "But here I have a letter from the U.S. because I got a letter." And they said, "Oh, don't worry, just go there." And then I went to the office, and when I went to the office, which was I had to take a bus, I waited like 7 hours, and they said, "Oh, sorry, we can't see you. You have to come back tomorrow." So I spent like 3 weeks going back and forth from downtown Rio to the airport, which is like an hour ride. And then finally, so it was a process of surrender. But then this lady there, who was a friend, who became a friend, she called them and she said, "Hey, I know all this stuff. I don't like this stuff from the U.S. I'm a lawyer like you. We're gonna go there." And she had to sign for it. And then I ended up, it had to stay with her for like a year. The computer had to stay with her.
So
Or
you
else-
literally had to surrender your computer.
But, it's like each time I gained something because
Right.
I understood the system there.
Right. You let it go because you had to let
And
it
then
go.
And then I did get it back, and then when I left,
Thank
I
you,
took it with
you.
me.
Thank you. What's that expression? If you let something go, that it will come back to you. Forget what. So I just want us to meditate on this week if we can, or the Shabbat, and think about things in our lives that we've been striving so hard for, and just ask ourselves, what would happen if we let go? Not if we gave up, but what would happen if we just let go? And if we could honor the bravery that it takes to be so vulnerable and so trusting. And I'd like to bless us with the possibility that could happen. So Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.